All right, welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're going to be taking a really close look at video feedback and how it can be used to improve your professional skills.
Yeah.
We often hear about video feedback.
Yeah.
You might even have some experience with it.
Absolutely.
But today, we're going to specifically be looking at a pretty major study that looked at how effective this technique really is when it comes to things like your communication skills, your interaction skills.
Right. And it's a really fascinating history, actually. The idea of using video feedback for training purposes actually goes all the way back to the 1960s.
Yeah.
It started, in places like Stanford and Colorado State University.
Okay.
And it was very much tied to this concept of micro-teaching. So basically they would, film teachers or people in training
Right.
interacting with students or clients or whomever.
Yeah.
And then they'd all sit down and watch the tapes.
Uh-huh.
And it was pretty revolutionary at the time.
Yeah, I bet.
And it's really evolved quite a bit since then.
It definitely has. And that's what we're going to unpack today.
Right, yeah.
So our mission for you today is to really look at how video feedback works. And sometimes maybe doesn't work
Yeah.
when it comes to improving professional communication.
Right.
We're drawing from this one study, which is actually a meta-analysis,
Right.
that looked at the combined results of over 200 experiments
Wow.
to really pinpoint what makes a difference for people.
Yeah, and when we talk about professionals, we're really talking about a really wide range of people.
Absolutely.
Anyone who needs to communicate effectively
Yeah.
in their professional life. So, we're talking about teachers, psychologists, social workers,
Yeah.
doctors, nurses, really anyone where the success of their work really hinges on
Yeah.
how well they can communicate with other people.
Yeah. And, think about your own work. How much does your ability to connect with colleagues, your clients, or the people that you serve, how much does that play into your own effectiveness? And, feedback in general is just really essential for getting better at anything.
Right.
And video feedback specifically gives you this really unique opportunity
Yes.
to basically see yourself from a distance, right?
Yes, to see as others see
Yeah.
you,
Uh-huh.
which we don't always get a chance to do.
Right, exactly. And so that's a fantastic opportunity for reflection.
Yeah.
And to really kind of get a more accurate picture of how you're coming across to other people.
Right, exactly.
So, okay, let's get into the nitty-gritty here.
Yeah.
What does this meta-analysis tell us about whether or not video feedback works?
Yeah, so the big picture is that it does work. Video feedback has a statistically significant positive impact on the interaction skills of professionals.
Cool.
So, that's the big takeaway message. This particular meta-analysis looked at 33 studies, which is a lot,
Yeah.
over 1,000 participants.
Ah,
And the overall effect was a 0.40 standard deviation improvement,
okay.
which is, that's a pretty decent size effect.
Yeah, that's not nothing. That's
Right.
that's real noticeable change.
Yeah, exactly. So it really backs up this idea that putting learning in the picture, as they call it,
Yeah.
can be a really powerful way for people to learn and grow.
Right. Seeing is believing.
Exactly.
But the study didn't stop there, obviously.
No.
They went on to look at, okay, what are the factors
Right.
that make video feedback even more effective?
Right.
So what were some of the things they found that make a big difference for people?
Yeah, well, so one of the most important findings, I think, is about observation forms. So the study found that video feedback was significantly more effective when it was paired
Okay.
with a structured observation form that actually listed specific behaviors for people to watch out for.
So not just passively watching it back, but having a guide.
Yeah, almost like a checklist.
Oh,
So
yeah.
you're not just sort of watching yourself and thinking in general.
Yeah.
Oh, how did I do? You're actually looking for specific things.
Yeah.
And the programs that use these forms showed a much larger effect.
Really?
The effect size was 0.55, which is a pretty substantial improvement
Wow.
compared to 0.21 when no form was used.
That's a huge difference.
Yeah, that's a big difference.
Okay, so it's not just about seeing yourself. It's about seeing yourself and knowing what to look for.
Yeah, right.
And maybe that helps you even process what you're seeing.
Yes, exactly. I mean, it's like having a zoom in feature.
Yeah.
Right. You can really, really focus on the specific things that are relevant to your training goals.
Yeah.
And, early on, there was a lot of optimism around this idea of just video self-confrontation,
Right.
which is basically just
Keep watching it back.
watching yourself.
Yeah.
And there was this thought that just seeing yourself on video would be enough
Right.
to trigger change. But what this meta-analysis shows is that without that additional guidance, without that sort of focused attention that comes from a form, the impact is less.
It makes sense, right? Because you might notice some things,
Right.
but you might not notice the most important things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You might not know exactly what you should be paying attention to
Yeah,
in order to improve.
that makes total sense.
Yeah.
It's like watching a recording back of a presentation you gave
Right.
and not knowing what you were trying to improve in the first place.
Yeah. Exactly.
You know, you see the whole thing, but do you actually learn anything from it? Not necessarily.
Right.
All right, so what about this idea of getting extra instruction?
Okay.
Often, we think more information is always better for learning.
Right. Yeah.
So what they find there?
Yeah. Well, this is an interesting finding
Okay.
because it turned out that video feedback that was combined with additional instruction,
Right.
things like, explanations, demonstrations, practice opportunities, whatever,
Yeah.
was not significantly more effective than video feedback alone.
Really?
Yeah, which is kind of surprising.
Yeah, you'd think, see yourself.
Yeah,
Have someone explain to you what you could do differently.
right, right.
That seems like a powerful combination,
You'd think so.
but not necessarily.
Yeah, and even the number of these instructional components didn't seem to make much of a difference.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it suggests that the feedback itself, particularly when it's focused by a form,
Okay.
might actually be the most critical part of the learning process.
Right.
And this kind of echoes that early research on video self-confrontation where,
Okay.
it's not necessarily the practice or the extra teaching.
Yeah.
It's the feedback itself that
That-
seems to drive the change in behavior.
Right. So quality over quantity.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay. What else? What else was in there that's really important for people to know?
Well, there's another interesting finding about focusing on positive versus negative skills.
Okay, you mentioned that before. What is that all about?
Yeah, so the study showed that when the outcome measures focused on positive skills, things like active listening
Okay.
or showing empathy,
Uh-huh.
video feedback had a larger impact
Okay.
than when it was focused on negative skills, like being nervous or being passive.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so it seems to be, and this is sort of intuitive, but
Yeah.
video feedback seems to be better at helping people develop the behaviors they want to see rather than just getting rid of
Oh,
the
interesting.
ones they don't.
Okay, so build up the good stuff instead of just trying to tamp down the bad stuff.
Exactly. So it brings up this idea that, while video feedback can certainly highlight areas where you might want to improve,
Yeah.
it seems to be particularly good at reinforcing and building those positive actions
Okay.
that you're aiming for.
Right.
And I think that suggests that, both for your own personal development, but also for anyone who's designing training programs,
Yeah.
it might be beneficial to specifically address both positive and negative behaviors,
Yeah.
and perhaps even to offer clear alternatives to those less effective actions.
Okay, so don't just tell me what not to do, tell me what to do instead.
Exactly. It's
right.
not just about pointing out what not to do, but
Yeah.
showing people what to do instead.
That makes a lot of sense.
Uh-huh.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so what about this idea? You mentioned this before about molar versus micro measures. What does that even mean?
Right. So micromeasures, these are very specific,
Okay.
often countable behaviors, things like, the number of times you make eye contact
Yeah.
during a conversation
Yeah.
or, how many open-ended questions you ask or things like that.
Right.
Very, very specific.
Okay.
Molar measures, on the other hand, are broader skills
Mhm.
that are assessed using rating scales. So, your overall level of empathy
Okay.
or your ability to build rapport with someone.
Right.
And what the meta-analysis found is that these broader molar outcomes actually showed larger improvements from video feedback than the micromeasures.
That's really interesting. You'd think if you're working on very specific things, you'd see the biggest change in those areas.
Right, you'd think so.
But not necessarily.
Yeah, and there are a couple of possible explanations for this. One is that maybe video feedback leads to a more general or holistic improvement in your communication skills.
Okay.
And these broader molar measures are just better at capturing that overall shift.
Yeah, so it's not just about like ticking boxes, it's about the overall impact.
Exactly. Yeah, the whole being greater than the sum of its parts.
Right.
Another thought is that with those very specific countable micro skills,
Okay.
there might be a sort of ceiling effect
Okay.
where increasing the frequency of those behaviors doesn't necessarily, yeah,
Translate into better communication quality.
right. You can only make so much eye contact before it becomes weird.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
right, right.
So, so maybe the real improvement is not so much in the quantity of those behaviors, but in the quality
Right.
and the context in which they're used.
Right.
And that's something that these Mueller measures might be more sensitive to.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay, now I'm sure a lot of people listening are thinking to themselves, okay, well, this all sounds great, but I've been doing this for 10 years.
Yeah.
Is this really going to be helpful for me?
Right.
So, did the study find anything about the level of experience?
Yeah, and this is actually really good news. The study found that the experience level of the trainees, whether they were just starting out or they were seasoned professionals,
Yeah.
didn't significantly affect how much they learned from video feedback.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So the effect size was pretty consistent across all levels of experience.
That's really encouraging, actually. It is. It's very encouraging.
So you're never too experienced to benefit
No, exactly.
from seeing yourself
Right.
and getting that feedback.
It kind of goes against this idea that,
Yeah.
you can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Right, exactly. Okay, so we've talked about kind of the main content of what makes video feedback effective. The study also looked at a couple of different ways that video could be used, kind of, technically.
Right.
So were there any key findings there?
Well, so one interesting thing the study pointed out is that while there are lots of different ways to use video, you can show the recordings faster or slower.
Right.
You can freeze frame. You can give feedback on just the picture or just the sound. You
Yeah.
can use split screens. You can show people recordings from different points in time.
Right. Get really fancy.
Yeah, get really fancy with it.
Yeah.
But these weren't really a major focus of the research that they looked at.
Oh, interesting.
Most of the studies actually just used a pretty straightforward kind of normal playback.
Okay.
And so what that suggests is that maybe the way you use the video, the pedagogical approach,
Right, okay.
like those observation forms we talked about, might actually be more important than the fancy technology itself.
Right. So it's not about the bells and whistles. It's about the core content.
Exactly. At least based on what the research has shown so far.
Right.
Maybe there's more to be discovered.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so the study also had some things to say about the way the research was actually done.
Yeah. So just for your own confidence in these findings,
Yeah.
it's good to know that most of the studies used really good designs, control designs, where they tested people before and after the video feedback,
Yeah.
which is a really strong way to measure change.
Yeah.
They also emphasized the importance of having external people observe and rate the interaction skills rather than just relying on self-report,
Right.
which again makes the results more reliable.
Okay. So the science was good.
Yeah, the science was good.
Okay.
They did a good job.
Okay.
Yeah.
So big picture, like what's the most important thing to take away from all of this for you, listener?
Yeah, so the main thing is that video feedback can be a really valuable tool for you
Okay.
if you're trying to improve your professional interaction skills.
Uh-huh.
But its real power seems to come from combining it with a structured observation form
Right.
that really helps you focus your attention on the specific behaviors
Right.
you're trying to develop.
Right. Yeah.
So it's that focused feedback loop.
Okay.
It seems to be really key.
So again, quality over quantity.
Exactly, yeah. It's not just about passively watching yourself.
Right.
It's about really actively engaging with the material and,
Yeah.
and using it to make specific changes in your behavior.
Okay. And the study also really drives home this point that while extra instruction can be helpful, with video feedback,
Right.
it's really that focused self-reflection.
Right.
That's the most valuable thing.
Exactly.
Right. And it's also worth remembering that video feedback seems to be particularly good at helping people develop positive communication skills.
Yeah.
And that looking at your overall abilities, your overall skills, rather than just very specific little things,
Right.
might be a better way to see how it's impacting you.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's a question for you, the listener, to think about. We've talked about how just seeing yourself isn't always enough.
Right.
So how could you use structured self-observation, even without video,
Yeah.
to get a better understanding of your own communication style
Right.
and where you can grow, right?
Right.
Can you create your own kind of mental observation form
Exactly.
to use when you're interacting with people?
Right. And I think, one way to think about that is what are the key behaviors, you
Yeah.
know? If
Yeah.
you had to pick like 3 or 4 things that you really wanted to focus on
Yeah.
in your interactions, what would they be?
Yeah. What are your goals?
Right. And then how could you kind of pay attention to those
Yeah.
in your daily conversations?
Right.
And you might even just jot down some notes afterwards.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly.
Just to kind of
Reflect.
on how you did.
Yeah. Could that lead to some improvement over time?
Possibly. Right.
Yeah, I think so. And then
Yeah.
building on that, it's really kind of exciting to think about how future research
Right.
may be looking at even more closely the best ways to design video feedback, maybe by incorporating this idea of both positive and negative behaviors
Right.
could lead to even more effective development opportunities.
Yeah.
That's
Exactly.
great for people. I mean, there's still so much we don't know about,
Yeah.
how to really optimize this technique.
Right.
But I think this meta-analysis really gives us a good
Yeah.
foundation to build on.
A good starting point.
Right?
Absolutely. So I hope you found this deep dive, useful. I hope you found it
Yeah.
interesting. I think it's really valuable to sometimes step back
Right.
and look at the science behind these things
Right. The evidence.
that we're doing,
Yeah.
and to make sure that we're using them in the most effective ways possible.
Absolutely.
So thanks for joining us on the deep dive. We'll see you next time.
See you in the deep dive.